the host of Aaron's Hour, Aaron Phillips.
Hey, Aaron. Hey, Aaron.
Yo, Aaron.
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 Wow.
Hey, wake up,
We got
man.
a show here. What are you doing?
Show?
A show? Yeah. What are you doing? We're on
Show.
the air. Come on, buddy.
Wow. Oh, my
What
God.
happened to you?
Wow. Peter, John, thank you so much. Woo. I'm nervous here. You know why? Whew.
What's the matter?
My heart's racing because I just had a dream.
Well, everybody has dreams.
Well, I know everyone has a dream, but this some would consider almost a nightmare. I had a dream that I moved to Virginia Beach, and would you believe they had a foot of snow? I'm scared. I mean, thinking of
Aaron.
shovel. Why?
Why would you want to move to Virginia Beach?
That's the scary part. I know
What's the
it's.
matter with you?
Oh, whew, thank
Hey.
God it's. Thank you. Wow, Peter, thank you. Oh, so glad he's here today. Welcome to another edition of Aaron's Hour. Thank you for tuning in today. We are at a special time, but thank you for tuning in. I think we are. I don't know what time it is because I'm all out of sorts right now. But I know you're watching me, I think, on Facebook, right? On the Aaron's Hour show page. And of course, on the WWDB TV Las Vegas page, if memory serves correctly. I mean, that nap, I like taking power naps, but geez Louise. And then, of course, you can watch us on YouTube on the same channels that I was just referring to. And if everything is still the same, within a couple of days, you can go to Roku and you can download the WWDB TV channel to your Roku and watch all the shows that are available there through the network. Including How many? A plethora of shows that are available there on the network. And of course, I got to get my heart to calm down. I got to take a little water. You can give us a call today. Talk with us today, 702-992-3207. I have Peter Papagiorgio, a dear friend here in the studio with me today. Well, I got to take a sip of water. Why? We got a great guest today, too.
Hey, make
We
sure
certainly
you
do.
bring you any gifts.
Aaron, you got to compose yourself.
I do.
Okay.
Woo. John, how you doing, John?
Good. Hey, yeah. Here it is.
All right.
Saturday again.
Saturday again. All right. Well, let's get right to it, and I'll tell you why. Because I said so. It's my show.
Oh, okay.
Well, with Peter today. But I mean, I know I'm all good. Look at the logo. See, I knew I was dreaming because look, even the logo. I got to take my hat off because I am hot right now in here. Look, it even says I had a dream that it said coast to coast on this logo up here. Aaron's Hour. See, it doesn't say that.
Coast to coast.
Oof. Okay, that's it. Enough of that because I want to get to my guest, which, by the way, I want to say thank you for helping for me to reach out to our guest today.
My pleasure, Aaron.
One of the great things about Vegas, people love mob stories, right? I mean, the Mob Museum, we know all the connection and ties. And listen, I've had the honor.
Wait, can you say that?
I just did. It's the internet.
Okay, well,
All right.
careful.
I know. I got to be careful today because
You never know who's listening.
I know.
Some of them are still alive.
That's very true. They are. And but you keep this up, none of us will be alive here momentarily.
Oh,
But I've had the opportunity to interview those who would use the title mobsters, you know, some very famous ones. And this is one I've heard the name of, and I did some research courtesy of you. And I'm very anxious to talk to our guest today, known as the Last Jewish Gangster. Joining us today, Myron Sugarman from New York is joining us today. Myron, come on in and join us. Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for taking time today on Shabbos.
Okay, well, it's post Shabbos now. Okay, so
True. Post Shabbos there, but Las Vegas, I still got a couple hours of sunlight. So
all right. Okay,
this
how you doing? How you doing,
Peter Papagiorgio here with me. Myron, thank you again for taking time. And listen, you know, there's something glamorous that people around the world love when it comes to hearing about the mafia. And I'll just use that as a general term. You know, the Vegas connection, New York, Chicago. And for the longest time, you know, being a member of the tribe as you are as well, there was always this talk about a Jewish mafia. And talk about the inner workings, how all that got started. You were born in the same hospital in town that I was born in Newark, New Jersey, not the same year, just I was a couple of days after you, in Newark, New Jersey, where I heard you say in previous interviews, Newark was like a battleground for a lot of reasons. Talk about that, if you will, you know, your upbringing and just kind of how a nice Jewish boy from an Orthodox family gets into this world of what is called the mafia, so to speak.
okay. So when I say, when I describe myself as the last Jewish gangster, I'm referring to the end of the world that started at the turn of the 20th century. I'm talking about the celebrity mobsters. I'm not talking about kids that that Jewish kids that, but then there's no real Jewish organization. There was, there was a certain rebirth of the Jewish mob that with the Russian immigration, you had Russian Jews, but they were not specifically, they were Jewish, but it wasn't a question of carrying forth a tradition that goes back to the time of, let's say, Meyer Lansky, Benny Siegel, Longings Willman, Doc Statcher, Murder Incorporated, Lefty Buchholzer, Shapiro, and so forth.
Okay.
They came to the United States as escapees from communism, not necessarily dealing with the question of Jewish patriotism, as was the case of the Jewish mobsters. The Jewish mobsters start with the turn of the 20th century, the end of the 19th century, turn of the 20th century, and because, of course, there was tremendous poverty in the ghettos. And every city of the United States of America had large Jewish populations. And so these young fellas were products of a Darwinian environment. In other words, strong, survive, and they needed to prove themselves both strong and mentally sharp. So, and many of them turned to the life of organized crime. But that was before the question of organized crime that comes later on with the period of Prohibition. They first started off as tough kids to protect their neighborhoods, not only to protect their neighborhoods, but to extort from the neighbors because it's territorial.
Right.
You're not going to let kids from other ethnicities come into your neighborhood and beat up on your people because you're protecting these people because these people are paying you for protection.
Sure.
I always say that when I give my explanation, I always remind people that the underlying factor, as far as the Jewish mob was concerned, was to break with the mentality of the ghetto of being victims. There may have been extortion and so forth in the ghettos of Europe, but in reality, we were still living the lives of victims. If you know your Jewish history of resistance, 1903 was the terrible massacres in Kishinev of Moldavia.
Right.
And at that time, Jabotinsky, who was the founding father of the revisionist Zionist movement, formed a Jewish defense movement, a resistance movement to fight. Well, while they were doing that in Europe, the Jews in the United States were also starting to become militant. And really the gangs form as a result of something that sparks in the Jewish mind of that time to be capable of being just as violent as the other ethnicities.
It was a point where the Jews needed to really start standing up for themselves, which was some terminology I heard you use in previous interviews. Right at this time, we weren't going to take it anymore, basically. Exactly.
It started to break. Our mentality started to break with. And by the way, it was that mentality that incidentally was the mindset for the creation of the state of Israel.
Right.
So when I give a speech on this particular question, I always tell everybody, you have to think in terms of a Jewish patriot that was born and raised in Palestine, pre-state Israel. Given the opportunity, if he was born and raised in the United States, he would get very well with that mindset. Same mindset, could have been a gangster, and vice versa. The gangster could have been a patriot. And in reality, the gangster eventually became a patriot. And in reality, it was the gangs of the Jews of Irgun and Lehi that were hated by the British and referred to as gangsters that actually forced the British to turn over the mandate that they received from World War One and gave it to the United Nations for the United Nations to resolve the question of the Jewish state in the land of Palestine. It's very interesting. So in the second phase of the development, Prohibition was a great opportunity for entrepreneurship for immigrants, Jews, Italians, Irish, whatever the case may be.
Right.
All over the United States, it was an opportunity. But the Jews were entrepreneurial.
Right.
The best. This is what we're known for, our business acumen. So
Right.
our Meyer Lansky, Benny Siegel, but particularly Meyer Lansky and particularly Abe Longies Willman from Newark, which nobody outside of the city of Newark or Jersey ever recognizes the name of Longies Willman, where Longies Willman was on an equal level with Meyer Lansky in terms of being leadership of the Jewish mob.
Right.
Throughout the United States. He was the most powerful individual. They've been talking about doing a documentary on him. There's a book about him. But very few people actually recognize that name. Everybody recognizes the name Meyer Lansky.
Right.
But if I mention the name Joe Doc Stature, nobody knows of that name. His nephew is in the process of writing a book and a documentary. And I was very close to Doc Stature. He was dear friends of my father and the original partner with my father in the jukebox vending and gaming business.
So
I grew up in that world. That's why I'm the tail end. It's not only that I'm a historian,
right.
but I myself followed in my father's footsteps. He never had any intention for me to operate illegally.
Right.
But I found that as an expediency. And I was around those people, and I came up with a revolutionary idea to bring back slot machines to New York City after 30 some odd years after, exactly 36 years after Mayor LaGuardia, Fiorello LaGuardia, banned the machines in New York of Meyer Lansky's and Frank Costello. Go ahead.
Was it an easy transition to take a product that is coin operated, like the slot machines, the music jukeboxes and such, the candy and cigarette machines? Was it that easy to be able to control the business where you can make it a situation that others were able to participate in and be able to share with the mob industry? What was it about that product that made it relatively easy for the industry to grow within the organized crime syndicate?
Well, in 1977, a couple of old timers came to me and said, we want to put out gambling machines.
Okay.
And at that time, I was known for being marginally in the gambling machine business, but I was more known as importing, exporting gambling machines all around the world. So the old timers knew my father. My father was long gone. Anyways, they came to me, and I liked the idea. Within 2 months, we started to put out the machines, and within 2 months, the two major enterprises knew who I was. One was called the FBI, and the other enterprise was every gangster in the city of New York heard about all these slot machines that were being operated in New York by some Jew from Jersey. Who was the guy that was the operator? Oh, he's Shuggy's son. Who was Shuggy? Oh, Shuggy was partners with, originally all the way back with Longies Willman with Doc Stature, but he's partners with Jerry Katina, Abe Green. Oh, Jerry Katina, well, he was the acting boss of the Genovese crime family. So, but I went out on my own. And eventually, of course, Mr. Katina was retired at that stage after. So I wasn't answering to Mr. Katina. I was part of the Genovese. I was an associate member of the Genovese crime family. And I had a very professional relationship with my guy. My guy was a fellow by the name of, they called him Louis Red or Louis Streaky, a wonderful man. We had a professional relationship.
So what I want to do is I'm going to ask you to stop right there. Hold that thought. I have to take our first break if you don't mind. Unfortunately, I got to pay a couple of bills for the show. So we are visiting with Myron Sugarman. He is sharing the background on his life in organized crime, so to speak. The last Jewish gangster. I love it. Love it. Hey, Aaron's Hour. We'll be right back.
Best.
And the best.
Switching to a vegan dessert doesn't mean sacrificing flavor or texture. At Sweet Peas Bakehouse, our pastries are designed to be just as delightful as their traditional counterparts. Sweet Peas Bakehouse features rich flavors and satisfying textures that will please any palate. From decadent brownies to light and fluffy cakes, each bite is a celebration of natural sweetness free from artificial additives. Indulgent treats that not only taste great, but also nourish the body by visiting www.sweetpeaswithazbakehouse.com. Experience the difference that nature-inspired baking can make at Sweet Peas Bakehouse. Call 804-214-7773 today and taste the goodness.
Hello, I'm Rick Upchurch, former Denver Bronco Ring of Famer. In life, there are rivalries, and then there are football rivalries. Broncos Raiders, Packers Vikings, Washington Dallas. But what happens when those sports rivalries invade a household? You know the scenario. Grandma loves Ohio State, but Grandpa loves Michigan. Novelty Sports Art has the type of artwork that simply adds fuel to the fire. The drip helmets depicted those hated rivalries with a splash of humor and color. These original artwork prints can be hung in the man cave, she shed, or the centerpiece at the next family reunion. Visit www.noveltysportsart.com and order from our listed inventory. You can also call 804-505-5669 for ordering details. A great sports rivalry should be honored as a novelty.
Have you ever wanted to dress like a Hall of Fame broadcaster but didn't know where to begin? In 2018, Aaron Phillips was inducted in the Las Vegas Entertainers Hall of Fame, and The Voice was born. Aaron has been part of many successful podcast programs, and branding those programs plays a vital role. Visit thevoice.qbstores.com and order the latest embroidered products featuring the logos of many of Aaron's shows. Discounts and flat shipping rates are available on all orders, regardless of quantity, on men's, women's, and kids' apparel, and many accessories. Visit thevoice.qbstores.com and let Aaron's voice speak to you.
All right, welcome back to Aaron's Hour with Aaron Phillips. Peter Papagiorgio is sitting here with me today, my special co-host.
Say that 3 times real fast.
Say that 3 times real fast.
Papa-hoo.
Myron Sugarman from New York. He is the last Jewish gangster, joins us today. He's also the author of a book under the same name. And there's a documentary that's out there, which we'll talk about in a little bit, called Last Man Standing, not to be confused with Tim Allen's sitcom show that was on the air for many years. This is also a chronicles of Myron's story as well. And you can check all that out, not only by searching on Google for Myron, and by the way, it's Sugarman with an E-R, not A-R like the sweetener, although I'm sure he's sweet as well, even with an E. You can go to his website at myronsugarman.com and check him out there, all of his interviews there, or just check him out online, and great stuff. You know, you referred to something in one of your previous interviews, Myron, about the 1939 Nazi rally at Madison Square Garden. People don't realize, and that's something I want to get into, you touched on it before, but as your success grew and your belief in the Jewish, I want to say lifestyle, that's not the word I want, but our Jewish philosophy. Heritage, thank you, John. You were paramount in helping track down Nazis, especially the Angel of Death. Talk about that shift and why that was important for you to be part of the hunt and that side of your life.
Oh, it's part of the tradition. My father's world fought the American Nazi Party in the 1930s in Newark, New Jersey. Newark was a battleground. You had the self-declared Nazi Fritz Kuhn, who called himself the Hitler of the United States of America, and the Jewish mob in every city of the United States where there was anti-Semitism fought with the anti-Semites, whether it was the brown shirts, the American Nazi Party, whether it was the silver shirts, whether it was the black shirts in London, wherever, the Ku Klux Klan, all these various organizations that existed at the time in the 1930s, there was heavy duty anti-Semitism, very much similar to what we're going through today as far as pro-Hamas and anti-Semitism spreading throughout the United States of America, particularly in the universities and the colleges, which
Right.
didn't exist at that particular time, but which exists today. So I felt my duty to seek out Simon Wiesenthal. My wife was a Jewish girl from Buenos Aires. I was very impressed with the capture of Eichmann in Buenos Aires, 1960 or 61. And while I was in Vienna, went on my first business to Vienna, I knocked on the door of Simon Wiesenthal. I offered my services. I speak a lot of languages. I travel the world. I'm educated and I'm pretty slick in terms of people skills.
Mhm.
So that I was able to get information pertaining to, and specifically, the Angel of Death Mengele in Asunción, Paraguay.
You have a question? Is that anything? No, you're good. Peter's just sitting here and enjoying the conversation.
I'll have questions later.
Yeah, that's okay. So I want to kind of go off task because I'm always intrigued by what gets people started in the direction that they chose in life. But I'm going to go a little different in my next question to you. If you did not do what you have done in terms of your career, when you were growing up, did you have a different idea for what your life was going to be like? Did you have a different desire to be a policeman, fireman, all that stuff growing up as a kid, especially in Newark? What was your design of a future life did you have in your eyes before you got involved in the business after your dad?
So, no. I studied political science. I graduated political science and languages from university.
Okay.
But my father wanted to do exporting in 1959. It was 14 years after the end of World War II. And there was a growing market around the world for jukeboxes, gaming devices, arcade machines, and so forth. So I started to travel the world.
Right.
And I went, by the time I sort of, you could say, semi-retired, almost retired. I've been to 65 countries. I lived in many, many different countries. I learned their arts, their culture. I learned their music. I learned their food. I learned their religion. I learned their philosophy. I learned their mindset. And all in the process of doing this, I understood that I had an allegiance to being a Jew, and I wanted to understand the world from the Jewish perspective, not only historically, but then I started to study the religion as well, because my ultimate conclusion is that we cannot survive as Jews in a cultural sense. We can only survive if Jews understand Judaism.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was, I took to it from the first moment my father suggested going around the world. And 3 months after I graduated college, I took a 3-month travel to Europe. I went to 9 countries. It was an eye opener. It was cultural impact, and I fell in love. And I knew this is what I wanted to do the rest of my life. As far as running gambling machines was concerned, 1970, the mob, particularly Meyer Lansky's organization, were running Bally slot machines throughout third world nations. They needed somebody for Nigeria. They had made a deal with a couple of gangsters from Beirut, Lebanon. And they needed somebody to run it for them, so I was sent there. And I learned the gambling machine business from A to Z at that time.
So you knew.
Then I came
right
home.
away.
Then I came home and I opened up New York City.
So you knew right away, graduating from university, that was where you wanted to go as a businessman.
I loved it. Loved it.
That's good. I have
with all of its excitement, with all of its dramas, and with all of its tension. 3 state cases, 3 federal cases, jail time, and so forth. But it was an exciting life.
I can, well, yeah. I mean, I can only imagine the exciting side of it, and the repertoire. Now you earned the nickname the Chief Rabbi for all your years in the gaming.
Well, guys would refer, go see the rabbi, go see the Jew from Jersey, and so forth.
Right.
Everybody gets some, moniker of some sort.
Sure.
Yeah. So And that's what I was referred to.
And now, certainly not ironic or lost in the moment, one of your sons actually is a rabbi, which is kind of cool.
He's an Orthodox rabbi, a brilliant scholar of Jewish law, of Talmudic law.
It's great that it's come around.
And he has eight kids, all Orthodox, all strictly religious. So.
Right on. Well, that's great. I want to shift gears a little. Let's go to the book for a second. John, you have a cover of the book. I think I sent you a picture of that. When you wrote the book and reading the bio on your website, again, MyronSugarman.com, your book not only shares all your stories and some of the anecdotes and things around.
It doesn't even share 1% of my stories.
Okay.
It's what we call in Yiddish a Vorspeise, an appetizer. That's all.
A Vorspeise, I love it. But you also have various themes throughout the book about aging, respect, adventure, a man's tendency to be his own worst.
Of course, the most important element of I don't know. One time, somebody told me about a song that what was his name? The guy from Minnesota that was a very famous country singer, Jewish kid, Zimmerman. His name was Robert Zimmerman.
Oh, okay.
Very famous.
Oh, Bob Dylan.
Yeah. So he wrote a song, and the lyrics of the song is, if you're gonna run outside the law, be honest. So the reason you're talking to me and I'm still alive is because I was honest and I wasn't greedy. And I learned in life greed kills more men than bullets. And I made sure that everybody made money. That was, by the way, the philosophy of Meyer Lansky.
Well, and I'm glad you brought, because that was the other theme that I wanted to mention. But in all the clips that I had watched of you getting ready to chat with you today, your commentary on greed seems to have been one that carries through a lot along with what you just said. Don't be greedy. And that seems to be a major part of your messages.
Well, I made sure everybody was comfortable.
Right.
Even sometimes, I'll tell you, we started to operate horse racing machines in Brazil. And I had just come out of jail. And I asked my people down there, who you doing business with? And they told me who they were doing business with. And I didn't like the guy. I said, well, who's the boss of Brazil today? It used to be Castro de Andrade. Who's in charge? He said, well, a guy by the name of Antonio Calil. They call him the Big Turk, the Arab. Mm-hmm. I said, make an appointment with him. I flew down. A month later, they made an appointment. I had breakfast with him. And, you feel the guy out. You see he feels you out. Then he says, what do you want? What'd you come here for? I said, well, I got the horse race machine. He says, well, are you the only one that got it? I said, yeah. He says, what are you looking to do? I said, well, here's my deal. I don't need your money. I need you to protect me. I don't want to get, when it's raining, I want to have an umbrella over my head. Mm-hmm. I need your gangsters. I need your thieves. I need your judges, your lawyers, your cops, all your connections. I'll put the machines in the locations in the favelas of Rio de Janeiro. And I'll tell you what, I'll give you the lion's share of the income. The kids that were working for me at the time didn't understand what I was doing. And this guy looks at me and he says, you know what? I like you. Shakes my hand. We did business for years without a discussion about the percentage. Mm-hmm. My employees, or guys that were running the business there, said to me, what was your reason for giving him the lion's share? I said, well, it's very simple. He's going to make sure that nothing gets stolen, nobody gets robbed, nobody goes to jail, nobody gets killed, nothing. He's got the lion's share of the responsibility. He's got expenses. And you have to think for the next guy. In the meantime, we got rich on 35%. He took 65% because we gave him 65%.
Right.
All right. That's the reason why the guy shook my hand and he says, I like it, because he was a pro.
Right.
It didn't make any difference that he's from Brazil. The rules are the rules.
Mhm.
The rules of life are the rules of life, and it makes no difference whether you're in Brazil or whether you're in Nigeria with the Arabs or whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
That's
Right on.
why it's very important. It's very important to have character.
Absolutely. All right. I have to stop right there for our second break. We come back. I want to talk more about the book. We'll talk about how folks can get it and the documentary and some more thoughts and insight from Myron. You're watching Aaron's Hour coming to you from Las Vegas still, right? I'm not sleeping. I'm awake. Okay. Aaron's Hour.
We're all awake.
We'll be back right after this.
With an award-winning and dedicated faculty and 4 beautiful campuses, Tidewater Community College proudly serves nearly 25,000 students a year, 48% of whom pursue degrees that let them transfer to four-year institutions. At Tidewater Community College, 65% of our students attend part-time, so they can earn while they learn, and 1/3 of our students are military-related. Enroll today at Tidewater Community College. From here, go anywhere.
Founded in 2021 by husband and wife duo Jason and Melissa Taylor, Rustic Reclaimed Design is a small business proudly owned by a woman and disabled Navy veteran. Rustic Reclaimed Design specializes in custom handmade and laser engraved products. By combining craftsmanship and creativity, Rustic Reclaimed Design delivers unique, high-quality items. Whether it is a personalized gift, something for the home, or a custom design, their mission is to create a piece that brings your vision to life. Visit us on Facebook by searching Rustic Reclaimed Design. Send an email to sales@rusticreclaimdesign.com or simply call 757-567-2790. Rustic Reclaimed Design is where we craft connections one unique piece at a time. It seems like the cost of keeping the lights on goes up way too often. Do you wish there was something you can do to control the energy costs in your own home to keep the lights on? I want you to Think Energy. Think Energy has partnerships across the country that takes advantage of solar farms. Solar farms actually reduce the dependency on your local electric company by having part of your electricity actually come from these solar farms, which in turn reduces your costs. To learn more, contact Preston Pearson by dialing 229-291-8329 or send an email to cp3foralltime@gmail.com. There is no better time to think energy. All right, welcome back to Aaron's Hour. MyronSugarman.com is the website. About one scroll of the button on your mouse, you'll scroll down, you'll see a black box that says Order ebook. Takes you to the Amazon link, The Chronicles of the Last Jewish Gangster from Meyer to Myron. It's available now. It's on Kindle only. It's available for $9.99, I believe, or actually, if there's any paperbacks in stock still, you can get those for $24.99. Either way, get the book. I know when I get back to my house, I'm going to order the book because I want to read more of the story as well. I'm intrigued by all of this. So tell me, Myron, let's talk about the book for a second. How did this come about, and what was the decision for you to put your life on pages?
I think everybody should write their story.
Fair enough.
Especially if you lived an exciting life.
Sure.
Because you want to share your wisdom. You've accumulated wisdom. You didn't live a life to just amass money.
Right.
All right. Go home at night, watch television, read a newspaper, smoke your pipe, go to sleep. All right. Wake up once a year, give your wife a little service. All right. You're put on this earth. You're put on this earth for a purpose. The purpose is to acquire wisdom. Now, who was the wisest of them all was King Solomon. Mm-hmm. And he wrote in the book of Ecclesiastes, he wrote that Hebel Hebelim, when they asked him, you amassed all this fortune, you built a temple, you had 600, 700 wives, you had 300 concubines, you were the wisest of them. What's the meaning of life? He says it was all in vain. Hebel Hebelim. The only thing that counts is wisdom. I just wrote a note to a friend of mine. He was a little frustrated. He didn't leave enough money, make enough money to be on a level of other people. It doesn't. Your value system is cockeyed. You're alive. You're healthy. You have to thank God you're alive and you're healthy. And then the other hand is you lived a life. You have some stories to tell. You got some wisdom to share. If I tell a story like I just did about the Brazilian, you can extract great wisdom out as a result of that.
Right.
It was a story of greed and the story of not greed.
Right.
And we had a fantastic relationship. It was the best of all the relationships that I ever had. He was certainly on top. We shook hands.
Right.
I understood what this man's needs were.
Right.
He understood that I appreciated him. He was a mensch, meaning he was a stand-up guy.
Right.
He understood that I understood, so there was no need for any conversation.
Right. And that's when a handshake meant something back in those days when you felt that
it still means something. There are guys that still honor their handshake.
Right.
You know, we have a tendency to say, oh, but unfortunately, in a way, it's becoming diminished. We don't see it as much anymore.
Absolutely. Peter has a question for you.
Go ahead, Peter.
Myron, can you tell the audience about your ties to the Greek gangsters in Astoria, since I grew up in Astoria?
Were you a Greek gangster?
No.
So the guy that was the boss was a terrific guy by the name of Spiros Valensis. He came to the United States at 13 years of age. They survived World War II. He didn't speak English. He learned English by working for a bookie in Boston. And then he learned how to become a card cheat. He was one of the best card cheats around. They used to put him into games. And, where you had clubs, where you had specifically Greek communities. And he would play for 2, 3, 4 nights, losing, looking like a sucker. And then on the last night, he would wipe everybody out. Then ultimately, he got tired of that, came back to Astoria. And he had a shootout with a Greek boss. I don't remember all the names. But he survived. They put bullet holes through his body. I had a Greek kid from Piraeus by the name of George Demo. He was my guy in Africa. And then I brought him to New York. He found Spiros for me. And one day he brought Spiros on a Saturday night to my home and introduced us. And Spiros was all dressed up, real spiffy. Takes off his jacket, takes off his shirt, unties his tie, and he shows all the bullet holes in his body.
Wow.
And he says, that's how I became the boss of Astoria. I says, okay, eat another fucking steak then. You'll get doubles. We became partners. I put machines into his places. Now, here's the story. He calls me one day and he says, come for dinner. I go to Astoria. His brother, by the way, Jimmy Friske. Jimmy was his dirty laundry guy. He was the guy that did all his dirty work for him. But Spiros says, come to Astoria. I go to Astoria, and he says to me, listen, I need 30 machines to put in all my clubs. I said, okay. He says to me, I'll give you $5,000 a week. I said to him, no. And then he says, Ivreos putana. All right? You Jewish son of a bitch, you. I'm offering you $5,000. You won't take $5,000. I said, of course not. He said, why? You want more? I said, no. He said, what do you want? I said, I want less.
Oh.
He says, oh, wait a minute. I'm offering you $5,000 a week, all right, for 30 machines. And you're not accepting. You want less money. What's your game?
Yeah.
I said, look, Spiros, I love you. But here's what you're going to do. I'm going to give you $5,000, all right? You're going to give me $5,000 the first week. I'm going to come back second week for my money. You know what you're going to call me? Isis Klefti Ivreos.
You're a Jewish thief.
Okay.
Right. You want to take advantage of me. You see, I know you. I know you like a fox. What you would do to me is you would say to me, "Yes, I'll pay you 5,000 the first week. Come back the second week." You call me a klefty, and you wouldn't give me any more money. You'd steal my machines. But the way I'm making a deal for you at a lesser value and a lesser price, you can't do that to me, can you? He says, "You son of a bitch, he says, "You're genius." I said, "I'm not genius. I just know you." And it goes back to the basic premise that greed kills more people than bullets. I wouldn't have to get into a fight with him. I made money with him.
What was the agreement in regards to the amount?
I think we settled out for $1,500 to $2,000 a week.
Wow.
Which was still, you're picking up $75,000, $100,000 a year for what? To go over to take a ride on Sunday morning to Astoria?
And this is when, back in the early 70s?
No, this is 1980s. But I'll tell you another story with Spiros.
Oh, okay.
Two Greeks come from Canada. They need the horse machines. They were told to go see the guy in Astoria, Spiros Valensis. You go to see Spiros. And they tell him they want to buy these horse machines. And Spiros says, "Listen, the guy that's the boss of the machine business, Evreos, he's a Jew from Jersey. I'll call him on the phone. He calls me up. You got the horse machines?" I said, "Spiros, I just bought a load out of France, out of Paris. Guy tried to operate them in Paris. He got knocked out by the government. I bought the load. I paid at the time $2,000, 56 machines. All right. They're hard to get. The factory stopped. They're not building the machine anymore." He says, "Okay." He said, calls me back. He says, "Okay, we sold the machines for $3,500 a piece. We go 50-50. I said, "Of course." That afternoon, I get a call from some Puerto Rican kid. He asked me, "You got horse machines?" I said, "I did, but I just sold them, but I may have more." My curiosity. He said, "Well, I got a couple of guys over here that want to buy the machines." I said, "How many guys?" "Two guys." "Two guys? Okay. Bring them here." So when the door opened and the Puerto Rican walks in with these two guys, I said, "Calameras filos. Ticanes.
Good day, friends.
Posices."
Posisa, how you doing? Good day, friends. How you doing?
All right.
They said, "Oh, how the hell did you know we're Greek?" I said, "Because you were the two Greeks that were at Spiros this morning." "Oh my God! You Hebreos. You're the Jew." "Yes,
You're
I'm
the Jew.
Okay.
Oh, you're the Jew.
Okay, so you guys want to buy machines?" "Yes." "Okay, but didn't you go with Spiros this morning? Didn't you start with Spiros? What are you doing with this Puerto Rican kid? You're not. Where's your allegiance? You were started with the Greek, and now you show up with a Puerto Rican because you think you're going to end run Spiros. It's not going to happen. So I can't sell you the machines now." So I said, "You got one option, and that is either go. You got two options: either turn around and go home to Canada, we forget about you, or you go back to Spiros." "Well, if I go back to Spiros, he might kill you. We might kill us." "Well, he might, but I don't think he's going to kill you. But let's take a ride." They make a decision. We're going to go to Spiros. They're so desperate for the machines. We go to Spiros. We drive to Astoria, and we go into the Grecian Gardens Tavern Saloon, and the bartender calls up Spiros. Says, "Spiros, Evreos, that Jew that was your friend, your partner's here with those two Greeks from Canada." Spiros comes running into the place 5 minutes later, and he gives me a wink. And he goes ahead and he starts to hug and kiss the two brothers. "Oh my God, look at that. What a war. This is terrific. It's my guy. Oh, wonderful. Let's go. Let's go for the Gominas. Let's go to Las Vegas. Let's go to Atlantic City. We're going to go party for we'll go we'll get the Gominas. We'll drink some whiskey. We'll shoot some crap. We'll have a good time." Gominas. John, tell them what Gominas are.
Girlfriends.
That's it. The broads. The
Yeah.
broads. We're going to go for the broads. So anyways, I didn't go, but they came 3 days later. Spiros calls me up. He says, "Come pick up $50,000." I sent my man over, pick up 50,000 cash. That was a deposit. Machines to be shipped. We ship them from Port of Rotterdam, ship them to Canada, and a month later we show up with my technician or with Spiros.
Wow.
When we get to Canada, Spiros starts to talk to these. There was everybody who's the brother-in-laws, the brothers, the nephews. Everybody's involved in this business. Spiros says, "Let me look at the machines." I said, "Holy shit!" He says, "These machines they ship the expensive machines. Damn it! I can't let you buy these machines and pay the price, and I can't let my friend over here lose his money. So I'm going to give you back your $50,000." No, what's the new price, Spiros? He kicked the price from 3,000. What did he charge you? 3,500, and he kicked the price up to I think $6,500.
On that note,
That was
I got to step aside for our last official break.
That's street smart.
When we come back, we'll have about 10 minutes left. You're watching Aaron Zara with special guest Myron Sugarman, sharing stories about his life of adventures. We'll leave it at that for right now. Thank you for watching. We'll be right back. Founded in 2021 by husband and wife duo Jason and Melissa Taylor, Rustic Reclaimed Design is a small business proudly owned by a woman and disabled Navy veteran. Rustic Reclaimed Design specializes in custom handmade and laser engraved products. By combining craftsmanship and creativity, Rustic Reclaimed Design delivers unique, high-quality items. Whether it is a personalized gift, something for the home, or a custom design, their mission is to create a piece that brings your vision to life. Visit us on Facebook by searching Rustic Reclaimed Design. Send an email to sales@rusticreclaimdesign.com or simply call 757-567-2790. Rustic Reclaimed Design is where we craft connections one unique piece at a time. It seems like the cost of keeping the lights on goes up way too often. Do you wish there was something you can do to control the energy costs in your own home to keep the lights on? I want you to Think Energy. Think Energy has partnerships across the country that takes advantage of solar farms. Solar farms actually reduce the dependency on your local electric company by having part of your electricity actually come from these solar farms, which in turn reduces your costs. To learn more, contact Preston Pearson by dialing 229-291-8329 or send an email to cp3foralltime@gmail.com. There is no better time to think energy. All right, welcome back to Aaron's Hour with Aaron Phillips, Peter Papa Giorgio, my good friend sitting in today co-hosting, and of course, the man of the hour from New York City somewhere, no, not New York City. He's actually in New Jersey.
We're not supposed to give out his location.
I know. That's why I went from New York to New Jersey. Let somebody else figure it out.
No, he lives in Connecticut.
No, he lives. Myron Sugarman joins us, taking time and sharing with us many of his adventures, which of course you can find in his book. If you go to myronsugarman.com, click on order ebook. That'll take you right to Amazon to the link directly. The Chronicles of the Last Jewish Gangster from Meyer to Myron. You can buy it on Kindle. You can get paperback. I do encourage you to do that. But if you're like me with a short attention span, I like movies. And there was a documentary put out that's about an hour and 15 minutes long a few years ago under the same name, The Last Man Standing, The Last Real Jewish Gangster. Tell me how
I saw that.
did you watch it, John?
Yeah.
Bring up your microphone, if you don't mind, John.
No.
Myron, John, the owner of the studio and our producer, actually watched your documentary. The last
But I didn't know.
Documentaries won many prizes, by the way.
Yeah, I watched this a while ago. I did not. When I watched it, I didn't know that
this was him.
That we were going to do this. I didn't know he was going to be on the show.
Well, did you?
By the way, I've spoken at the Mob Museum, and they did a major interview.
2019.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2019, I believe it was. You came out in November of that year.
Oh, is he?
But how was it? But talk about the documentary. How did this come about?
Basically, a couple of fellas from Israel fellows from Israel that do documentaries. They heard about it, and they
Okay.
thought the story was a fantastic story to tell and make it into a documentary. So I participated. I was the star for the documentary.
Yeah, directed and written by Johnny Kaplan.
Yeah, good boy, good boy. Did a good job. A British
True
a
crime.
British Jew living in Jerusalem, and
Okay.
he did a good job, a spectacular job. So
Wow. What the picture that comes up on the I'm just curious more than anything else that on the link that I found about the movie, you're sitting, I'm guessing, in like a living room, and there are 5 portraits behind you.
Yeah.
And it looks like obviously they're relatives. And I see on the bookcase behind you looks like a wedding picture. Who are some of those people in the pictures behind you in this portrait, if you can recall that
so
picture?
I have thousands of pictures in my apartment on the wall. Pictures
Okay.
of every gangster, every celebrity, every singer, every politician, Yitzhak Shamir, Menachem Begin, the Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, the Jabotinsky, a combination of all the people that were significant. Of course, my father, all of our family, and so forth. People that were significant in our lifetimes. I married a girl from Argentina, a Jewish girl from Buenos
Right.
Aires, and met her in 1964. She was a bookkeeper in a slot machine operation.
Oh, okay. And how long have you guys been married now?
Well, I know her since 1964.
Okay.
You do the math. 60
Well,
years.
Considering I was born that same year, that's easy math for me right now.
There you go.
I was 4.
There you go.
All right. So I have a question with all the adventures, and Peter, and I said this to Peter during that last break. You know, I think you've been on every possible continent there is except for Antarctica. I think was the only one that you haven't set foot on.
Pretty much all right.
So were there any situations that you were in that you just kind of said, this is it, I'm done for? I like ever come real close to losing your life in any situation, or
2 assassination attempts in New York.
really? Can you share like what the scenario was that happened?
It's so complicated because it's a complicated world. And for me to explain the motive in each one of the cases, it's just by the first time the guys overstepped their authority.
Okay.
And instead of resolving it at the table at a sit down, they took it upon themselves and they suffered terrible consequences as a result of violating the law. Second time was somebody that was filled up with so much paranoia that it was so far-fetched that he had a couple of hitmen come in on me, and it was by sheer circumstances, more probably by an act of providence, by the hand of God, that my guy that was to meet me that morning was aware of the fact that there were 2 guys sitting in an automobile. And when I pulled into my parking place, these guys, one of the 2 of them, came out of the car and was dressed in a costume and an outfit that looked, typical hitman. He came into the place, and my guy was watching and observing him and screaming at me, "This guy's here to kill you." And there was no logic to what I did, but in a moment of complete lunacy, I chased after the guy and told him, "I'm going to kill you before you kill me." The guy ran out the other side of the building. The car pulled up, the getaway car pulled up, the guy pulled in the car and it took off. Now, with the circumstances, when I started to connect all the dots why he did it, there was no reason for him to do it. But he was filled up with paranoia, so much so that he was connected to John Gotti. John Gotti, I understood. I found out afterwards, hated this guy, and this was another act outside of the rules and regulations of
Sure.
Yeah.
OC.
He went rogue, basically, right?
Yeah.
Maybe
Wow.
maybe he wanted to get a button, he wanted to get a button.
Could be.
No,
Well-
no. He did something which was unauthorized, and he thought that if I was killed, if I was eliminated, nobody would ever know that he did what he did.
Wow.
Wow.
As much as I hate to say this, but our time has run out. Myron, I could sit and listen and chat with you for hours, but
I told you, I wrote one book, I could write 1 million. I got
bet you
endless,
can.
endless. A lot of those stories that I told you are not in the book.
So what? Yeah, hopefully, and I know there's going to be plenty of material. Perhaps somewhere down the line we can revisit again for another time to share some more stories. I do have one final question. It's kind of a little quirky, but if a movie were truly made about you, who would you like to see star as you in that movie?
Nobody can play that part.
You know what? I was hoping you would say that because that would make perfect sense. That would make perfect sense.
Nobody can play that part.
Myron, thank you so much for taking time.
That may sound horribly egotistical.
No,
arrogant.
I thought it was perfect. No, not at all. Listen.
I know nobody that lived the life that I lived, and there are people that they lived lives that I could never live.
Sure,
but mine was very unique.
I have profound respect for you as a human being because of what you do to further the cause for us Jewish people, and I thank you for that as well.
Okay, that's very, very nice. I really appreciate what you just said. That was wonderful.
Thank you. Well, listen, Myron, enjoy again. I stay in touch. I will stay in touch. I'd love to set up a part 2 down the line when we can make it happen.
Anytime, you guys are class act. Two guys class act. All right.
Well, we fooled him again, Peter. Well, yeah, Myron, thank you so very much.
Myron, if you ever come to Vegas.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Know, right?
Well, I think that there's a major interview that they did with me about 3 or 4 months ago that they're going to put on a major performance at the Mob Museum. Check it out.
Okay.
All right. MyronSugarman.com is the website. See some of his interviews. Perhaps his webmaster will put this interview on the website. Certainly get his book.
I hope you guys put it on. Go ahead, put it on the website. All right.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate that. Myron, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to this very special edition of Aaron's Hour. We appreciate everybody tuning in. Change the schedule next week. I hope maybe we'll be back on target. I don't know where we are. Thank everybody for watching. Be kind to everybody. Why? We are all we have. We'll see you next time right here on Aaron's Hour. Thank you for watching.
And go to bed early.
Your path to a meaningful career begins at Tidewater Community College. We're here to help you every step of the way, from application to financial aid, to helping you transfer to the four-year college of your choice, and even placement in in-demand careers. Whether you're looking to transition from the military, want to go part-time while you work, or make a full-time career change, TCC is here for you with multiple campuses throughout the region. Enroll today at Tidewater Community College. From here, go anywhere.
Hello, I'm Rick Upchurch, former Denver Bronco Ring of Famer. In life, there are rivalries, and then there are football rivalries. Broncos, Raiders, Packers, Vikings, Washington, Dallas. But what happens when those sports rivalries invade a household? You know the scenario. Grandma loves Ohio State, but Grandpa loves Michigan. Novelty Sports Art has the type of artwork that simply adds fuel to the fire. The drip helmets depicted those hated rivalries with a splash of humor and color. These original artwork prints can be hung in the man cave, she shed, or the centerpiece at the next family reunion. Visit www.noveltysportsart.com and order from our listed inventory. You can also call 804-505-5669 for ordering details. A great sports rivalry should be honored as a novelty.
Switching to a vegan dessert doesn't mean sacrificing flavor or texture. At Sweet Peas Bakehouse, our pastries are designed to be just as delightful as their traditional counterparts. Sweet Peas Bakehouse features rich flavors and satisfying textures that will please any palate. From decadent brownies to light and fluffy cakes, each bite is a celebration of natural sweetness free from artificial additives. Indulgent treats that not only taste great, but also nourish the body by visiting www.sweetpeaswithaz.bakehouse.com. Experience the difference that nature-inspired baking can make at Sweet Peas Bakehouse. Call 804-214-7773 today and taste the goodness.
Have you ever wanted to dress like a Hall of Fame broadcaster, but didn't know where to begin? In 2018, Aaron Phillips was inducted in the Las Vegas Entertainers Hall of Fame, and The Voice was born. Aaron has been part of many successful podcast programs, and branding those programs plays a vital role. Visit thevoice.qbstores.com and order the latest embroidered products featuring the logos of many of Aaron's shows. Discounts and flat shipping rates are available on all orders, regardless of quantity, on men's, women's, and kids' apparel, and many accessories. Visit thevoice.qbstores.com and let Aaron's voice speak to you.